to have you guys here. I'm so excited for this docuseries. I feel like it was made for me as a queer person who got married on Halloween last year. So what made you guys decide to bring this monster to life, so to speak?
Well, the monster was really born out of Shudder's interest in telling stories about the horror genre from marginalized people's point of view. They had this fantastic documentary called Horror Noire, which is about the history of Black people in horror films, and they knew they wanted to do a sequel and about the queer community. So we have to tip our hats to Shudder.
So there's so many like exciting interviews in this thing, from having Drag Queen Alaska on the cover to Jennifer's Body director, Karen Kusuma. What are you excited about for the series?
I was like, well, Kim Peirce was really exciting.
Yes, of course.
I am standing here, so what are you going to say?
I mean, there's so many people. I think it's hard to narrow it down. I think we had the cast of Yellow Jackets. A bunch of them came in. And it was super fun, and I really enjoyed. Oh shoot! Then my brain's blanking out on the name. What is the star of all the Gregor Rocky movies? James. James was a great interview. It's like he really kind of got the fight back of the new queer cinema movement, and I really enjoyed that. Let you guys keep telling.
I think one of the happiest surprises that we got in terms of interviewees was Oz Perkins talking about his father's legacy and what it was like for a closeted queer man to navigate Hollywood, and also his family in a really intimate way. That felt like something that I hadn't seen before. Nobody's had that conversation with Oz, and we were so honored to be able to have that conversation about Anthony Perkins in a way that really gave dimension to his experience as a closeted actor in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
So as queer people, we're like frequently drawn to genre fiction, sci-fi, horror, what you name it. What do you think makes horror so inherently queer?
Well, it's, all being monsters. I don't know if I speak for these monsters, but, look, I certainly think in a culture that has a normativity, heteronormativity, a gender normativity, when you do not fit naturally into that normativity, particularly in prior generations, when you're coming of age and you don't see a reflection of yourself, you become very astute at looking between the lines and figuring out, oh, I think that might be me. I think that might be a future me. So I can just say for myself, because I'm like trans, butch, genderqueer, homosexual, maybe everything. I was very much looking between the lines. And so I think what I've found is by talking to these guys who are brilliant and they've done this great documentary and seeing all these amazing interviews, it's like I'm finding my tribe, that all these layers, of being able to see ourselves represented and to read ourselves into existence until we can actually make ourselves into existence. So I think that you have a very creative audienceship that's creating themselves in it. And then we can get into the specifics of which monsters and horror that we all respond to.
Like you said, we frequently look for representation where it isn't, or where it's hidden between the lines. Was there a particular moment in pop culture or like a movie or television series or even character that helped you realize your own queerness along the way?
I don't know if it helped me realize my own queerness, but I feel like when I watched Scream when it came out, I felt like there's something different here, but I don't know what it is. I know I relate to this more than many of the other things I've seen. And, there's Kevin Williamson's behind it, and he's a gay writer. So the gayness is in there, even though it's not necessarily, part of the story. And I think that for me, that was just so... it just made me feel different. Like I was like, oh, I like horror again. Now I'm seeing things that are fun and have a little bit of, just secret queerness, and maybe not so secret queerness, but,
Look, Jekyll and Hyde. If you're what I was, which is a young bisexual lesbian who was genderqueer, trans butch, and the idea of I'm going to dress up one way and I'm going to go out into society and I'm going to be a successful doctor, but then at night I'm going to go out, I'm going to be this other version of myself. It's a completely queer experience of being able to move through gender and through sexual preference. And then I have to throw in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I am the monster, but it's a beautiful monster and a vulnerable monster and a monster that really wants to be loved. And I really believe that I'm so proud of these guys because they've worked so hard to bring so many voices into the discussion that we've never heard before that really are bringing to life why we are in love with these movies and what they mean to us.
One of the interviews that we had with a trans woman who talked about how the first time that she saw herself in horror was The Exorcist, because she was a young girl whose body was taken over by a male presence in the form of puberty, and it took her 20 years to exorcise that presence and reclaim her true gender. So I think when you're looking at that sort of metaphor and interpretation of the text, it really is about what you're bringing to the table as an audience member.
So what would you say you're most excited for people to take away from this docuseries when they finally get to see it?
I think I want people to really think about what it is to have queer community and community that surrounds you and people that you can relate to, and also have this out there for people who are struggling in the world, who don't have a community and don't have a place to be, and to kind of rile everybody up. Let's push some boundaries.
Hell yeah.
And I really think to imagine yourself into existence. I think if you don't exist in the texts that are being given to you, go ahead and project yourself onto that, which is what we all had to do. And if they are there and they're latent, pull them up and make a celebration of that. And then I love the idea of queer community. It's just like, find your tribe, because your tribe's all over. And I think that's what's been so fun about coming in and doing the interviews. I've known Steak forever. I've known you forever. And it's just like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I love understanding your personal connection. You keep bringing up Scream, and I'm just like, that's so cool, because that wasn't my experience. So
Yeah.
I think our main goal with this is to provide a experience for the audience that acknowledges what they were feeling that may not be text, and to provide an opportunity to own the horror genre in a way that feels sometimes very horror bro-y and very heteronormative and kind of toxically masculine in a way, but its roots and its foundations are all in the queer experience, whether that's Mary Shelley or Bram Stoker or Oscar Wilde or James Whale or any of the myriad writers that worked with Hitchcock. There were always queer people telling queer stories. They're just different levels of obfuscation.
Exactly. Absolutely. I find myself saying all the time that horror belongs to gay people. So I am so excited for this docuseries. And let's just end on a fun one. What's your favorite horror movie?
I'm torn between The Shining and Alien. I think there's queer coding in both of those films. There's definitely something very relatable for a lot of people who identify as queer or special or abnormal in Danny's experience dealing with an abusive father who wants to squash what is special or unique about Danny. And so that's always resonated very strongly with me.
Well, so for me, it's definitely The Shining and Scatman Crothers and Danny, right? Finding, whoa, that's a horror thing. We know that we're inhabited here. Something's happening. I don't know what was Scatman Crothers when he talks about the shine. And it's just this idea of these two people who seem very different actually have this deep commonality, and it's a special power, and it's a perception, and it's a wisdom about the world, which is very much, I think, what it's like to be queer in a world that doesn't accommodate you and doesn't represent you. Again, you have to birth yourself into existence and find your tribe, and that's what he's doing. They're having a very queer relationship in my eyes.
And I think I'm really excited about now, where we're getting to see series that are made by women with women in it, and clearly queer, like Yellow Jackets and Killing Eve, things that, as a younger person, I didn't get to see. If I did see, even when we're doing a whole episode on Dangerous Women, most of it is written by men, most of it's directed by men. But for me, in the last 5 years, there's suddenly starting to be more content that I can relate more to, because it is actually made by women.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming and chatting with us. I cannot wait to watch the docuseries when it comes to Shudder this fall.